In the last couple of days, we got 2 blog posts from Tynan with everything we need to know about Mechanitors and Mechanoid pets coming in the new RimWorld DLC, Biotech. There are 4 major points we need to talk about. First, we have the Mechanitors themselves. Second, we have the combat pets. Third, we have the labor pets. And fourth, we need to talk about Mechanoid infrastructure and the corresponding pollution. If you want to read the blog posts, I'll link them below. Now, let's begin. So starting with a Mechanitor, this is a colonist with MechLink implant, allowing them to control Mechanoids. You can start as a lone Mechanitor in a scenario or loot the implant from a dead one, but you'll probably have to go assault their outpost to get the implant, so it's not going to be the easiest task. Your Mechanitor will start with the ability to control just a few small mechs, but with bandwidth upgrades they'll be able to control more, and with more control group upgrades they'll be able to send multiple mechs to work on multiple tasks at the same time. You'll be able to get some more upgrades via the Mechanoid infrastructure, and with some Mechanitor implants like the control sublink for more control groups. 2 implants look especially cool to me. We have the remote repair and remote shielder that will allow your Mechanitor to remotely shield and repair Mechanoids in active combat. How cool is that? There's also special Mechanitor gear like headsets that increase the number of mechs they can control, packs that increase bandwidth or control units, and ultimately Mech Commander and Mech Lord armor. While we don't have the exact numbers on those, of course, you can expect them to be quite powerful, but of course to become the ultimate Mech Lords, you'll need Mechanoid chips gained from defeating powerful Mechanoids. So let's go on to that. You'll have the ability to have combat Mechanoids, and you'll be able to utilize them when fighting raiders or those powerful mech commanders. We learned that combat mechs will need to stay in range of their Mechanitor while they fight. We don't know how big that range will be, but one thing is for certain, you'll need to be extra careful to protect that squishy human. But of course there are many pets that can do just that. Beside the classic centipedes and siders and lancers and pikemen, we're getting a bunch of new ones. Hello, let's go. Militars are cheap swarmers with mini shotguns. We got scorchers who are bigger boys with flamethrowers. We got legionnaires who are combat support mechs with bullet shields and long range needle guns, but they're weak to melee and EMP. Now I assume those will be useful to stay behind lines and protect the Mechanitor while also sniping things from afar. There are also Tesserons with beam lasers that ignite targets and pass through shields, and last there are Centurions, ultra heavy mechs with shield bubble generator and point defense turrets that can fire on the move. I assume those will be quite necessary for big fights against the Mechanoid bosses. Side note, with so many mechs, it seems reasonable that raiders will come bearing a lot of EMP weapons, at which point it's gonna be time to send the colonists into the fray. And did you know that in my playthroughs, you too can become a colonist? Subscribe now and don't let those raiders EMP our precious new babies. And by babies, I mean mech pets, not actual children. We'll talk about those in future video. Now let's go back to mechs and their deadly commanders. There are 3 types of bosses that scale with the amount of times you summon them. Using mech signalers, you'll need to summon them for their chips that will allow you to progress your Mechanitor down the Mech Lord lane. First, there is Diabolus, an ultra heavy mech with giant hell spear cannon. It has a long charge time, but when it fires, it will melt everything it hits, be it colonists or a wall or a Mechanoid. It is very slow and has bad maneuverability, so I guess kiting it around will probably be the way to go. Just don't rush into melee because it poops fire if you get too close. Next is the War Queen. She has built-in mag gestator that spawns small war urchins that will aim to swarm your defenses and overwhelm you. If you can get to her before she builds up a huge army, she seems to be the easiest to deal with, at least on the paper out of the 3. Last is a Positron, a psychic warrior that uses psychic powers to poison the human mind with rage. Probably sending your colonists berserks, so probably best not to send your humans to fight it. It also seems to have a sniper rifle, so maybe a bunch of sliders can charge it. That would be the way to go. It remains to be seen. But of course, not all is about fighting, death and destruction. In peaceful times, your Mechanitor is getting a variety of labor pets that will help around the colony. There are paramedics that can use jump launchers to get down colonists out of dangerous situations, and even perform basic surgery. They also have built-in fire foam popper if there is fire, and they can use it when needed. So there are also small lifters who haul items and rearm turrets, and there are constructoids that will build and repair, and if need be they also have a slug gun and cutting blades for defense. Next we have agri-hands that sow and harvest, clean sweepers that will keep your base clean, fabricators that can craft but of course not as well as your skilled colonists. They also have slug gun for self-defense just like constructoids, and last but not the least we have the hulking tunnelers who drill and mine. They are slow but have heavy armor and are tanky enough to soak up a lot of damage, and if need be they also have a built-in smoke pop belt. So they seem ideal for early game defense when you don't have that many combat mechs yet. But with owning such a vast variety of combat and labor mechs comes a cost. Actually two costs, infrastructure and pollution. Mechanoids will require heavy infrastructure that will take a lot of space and burn a lot of electricity while also producing pollution. Each mech will need a subcore. Basic ones can be crafted by Mechanitors at subcore encoders. Next level ones will require subcore soft scanners that will slowly read human minds and then poop out a subcore, and then most advanced ones, as with everything in RimWorld, will require war crimes. Yes, subcore rip scanners will scan human brains at ultra high speeds, destroying them in the process. Now we know what those new types of unrecruitable prisoners we're getting will be very useful for. After gaining a subcore, mechs will then be produced in mech gestators that will be guided by a Mechanitor. Some mechs will be even to be able to resurrect it in those, and that makes them slightly less expendable in combat, I guess. Mechs will also have to periodically recharge their reserves at a mech recharger, which comes in several sizes and will consume a lot of power just like all the rest of the infrastructure. There are mech signalers I mentioned before, there are band nodes that increase Mechanitor bandwidth, and mech boosters that increase Mechanoid speed and workability, so I assume you'll want to build these ones around your crafting stations. But all of that infrastructure, as I mentioned many times before, consumes a lot of power and of course produces pollution. Power can be solved with cheap toxifier generators, but those also produce pollution. Your colony will produce toxic waste packs at a steady pace, and if they deteriorate, they will pollute the nearby terrain. If they get destroyed or burned, they pop like balloons, releasing deadly tox gas. We all know and love the toxic fallout in RimWorld. It poisons people, animals and plants. But people can wear gas masks, and they also can implant artificial detoxifier organs that we already have in-game, or become completely resistant with gene modding. Wildlife and plants, on the other hand, will die out. But unlike in old toxic fallout, they'll now be replaced by life adapted to pollution. You'll be able to grow toxic potatoes and hunt toxalopes, which seems some kind of boomalopes with tox gas maybe, and also waste rat. Pollution also attracts insects who are cocooned under the ground. They'll emerge when toxicity level rises too high and they will attack you. It says they've been originally engineered as anti-mag bioweapons. I don't know by who, but that's what it says. They got boosted by toxins, making them faster and deadlier, so yay, stronger insects. Who doesn't like insects destroying half of your base, huh? But of course there is a way to fight the pollution. You can freeze the waste packs, but that will take of course a lot of space. You can drop them on the world map via caravans, which seems like a really neat idea, or you can use waste pack atomizers to destroy them, or allow it to spread and embrace the brave new polluted world. There's also a mention of Pollux trees, something like an anima tree it seems, that will appear in polluted areas and slowly remove the pollution around it. But I'm not sure how efficient that will actually be. Now that is a lot of information that I just dumped in your lap. I am extremely excited to create my own little safe haven in an extremely polluted world, but what are you most excited for from these features? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you next time with some more news on RimWorld Biotech.